It's a little different story now for some of these kids that are coming in making millions of dollars at, 20 years old, 19 years old, 21 years old. They have security. What are they worried about? Like, what do they have to actually fight for that is passionate, where it's like life or death, like in terms of your being? That fear of, oh my God, if I don't play in the National Hockey League, what the hell am I gonna do?
Right.
So
and now they're getting in their Mercedes, going to their loft, you're saying, or what?
Yeah, well, it's for sure. I mean, of course, there's no worry anymore. These kids have bank accounts the size of most states. It's like crazy. It's unbelievable. And granted, they deserve it. I don't think it's bad that they're making big money.
Ever have that moment when you're in some shit and you don't realize how significant it is? Like as you get older, and you learn more in life, you look back and are like, whoa, shit, that was kind of a big deal I was involved in. But when you're in it, you don't really grasp its significance. This could come in varying forms. Obviously, some a bigger deal than others. I did not fully realize the magnitude of some things that I accomplished when I was considerably younger until really more recently, the past few years. People would tell me I had humility at times back in the day. Now, those of you that know me now in more recent years are probably like, humility? Yeah, right, dude. But really, I would get described like that from time to time. You see, I wasn't humble intentionally, though. I truly just didn't realize the significance of some of my accomplishments. Now, this naiveness or naivety, or however you pronounce it, actually worked in my favor. My lack of self-awareness contributed to people appreciating my general demeanor. Whether it was intentional by me or not, I'll take it. In researching today's guest a little closer, the opposite occurred to me. You see, I remember being in junior high and high school, seeing my peers walking around wearing Blackhawks hockey jerseys. The Blackhawks in the late 80s and early 90s were becoming more and more popular, and despite not really being ever on network TV back then, they had a solid and growing fan base. Roenick, Chelios, Belfour were amongst the stars I would notice across the backs of my fellow students in the hallways. So as I prepared for this interview, I saw that Jeremy Roenick is only 6 or so years older than me. No way. He was one of the superstars we all looked up to. He has to be at least 10 or 20 years older. How is he not? It makes me go full circle. I maybe realized more recently how proud I am of some significant shit I did as a teenager. Then you got this guy that was only a teenager doing some shit that dwarfed me. He was drafted 8th overall in the NHL Entry Draft in 1988 by the Blackhawks. He was only 18 years old. He also played for the Coyotes, Flyers, Kings, and Sharks over the course of his 20-year NHL season career. He was in the 98 and 02 Olympics. He finished his career with 513 goals and 703 assists. Jeremy is famously noted as one of the most colorful personalities on and off the ice, and undeniably the most fan-friendly star the NHL has ever produced. Charitable work has always been a big part of Jeremy's life, traveling North America, supporting many causes, helping to raise money and awareness. He has also been recognized for his talents as a sports analyst when working on air for NBC. Him and his wife, Tracy, split time between Scottsdale and Southern California with their children, Brandy and Brett. He is also an entrepreneur with ownership in multiple businesses, hence why we have him on the show today. Not to mention, he added author to his resume back in 2012 with the publishing of his first bio, JR, which highlights his illustrious career and personal stories during a very outspoken and opinionated time in his life. In 2015, he published his second book, for you watching on YouTube, I'm showing it right now, titled Shoot First, Pass Later, My Life, No Filter. Jeremy Roenick, welcome to 2000% Raise.
That was pretty awesome right there. I appreciate you being on. That was probably one of the best intros I've ever had. So
awesome, man. Hey, dude, I appreciate it.
I'm actually going to pat myself on the back a little bit for the way it made me just feel right there. I appreciate that.
Special shout out to OSDB, Online Sports Database.
Founders Ryan Rahman, Nate Raven, and Aaron Rodgers have developed the IMDb of sports. It should be considered your go-to spot for a thorough look at your favorite pro athletes. Everything from contract details to stats to business ventures and even charities they're involved in. Visit osdbsports.com.
You know, and I'm gonna give myself let our audience in on a little something here. Jeremy, we have some mutual friends in between us that were like, he would be awesome to be on your show. And I had him scheduled early on, episode 1 or 2, and then he had to cancel last second a couple times. Like, I don't want to bother the guy. And Jeremy, I got to tell you, man, as an interviewer, you've been on TV quite a bit. And as an interviewer, I feel like I'm so much better here now, 20 episodes later. It actually worked in my benefit. That
yeah, well, you sound polished right now. So I'm sure you learn very quickly your mistakes. And that's
well, exactly.
Listen, it's all about repetition, right? That microphone sometimes can be your enemy, but right now it's your friend.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that holistically. And I got to tell you, man, I was really thinking about this when I saw that you were born in 1970. I'm thinking, holy shit, man. I mean, 'cause I was born in 1976, and you know, I was never a big hockey guy. I played football in college. Football was my thing, but the hockey guys, man, they were wearing your jersey when I was in junior high and high school. And I mean, really, dude, from not being a hockey guy, when I think of the Blackhawks, I think of you, Chelios, Belfour, and then more recently, like Taze and Patrick Kane. My list doesn't go beyond that. I mean, you're like a legend. You're right there with Michael Jordan and Walter Payton as far as Chicago sports, as far as many are concerned, I'm sure. So hats off to you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And trust me, every time I'm back in Chicago, the fans make me feel that way. So I'm forever indebted for their support and their loyalty to me. Regardless of how long it's been since I've been in Chicago, it is like my second home.
Oh my God, that's awesome to say, and that leads me really to my first question to you. I like to start things off light, and we got an audience all over the country, so be careful how you answer. But you played for Chicago, L.A., Phoenix, Philadelphia, and San Jose. What's the best city to live in?
Well, I've answered this question many times before, and I have the perfect answer for it because,
okay.
I don't know if there's a player who played in 5 of the best scenario cities, right? So I started in Chicago, which is a huge market, original 6 team, amazing fans, one of the best cities on the planet in terms of nightlife, the restaurants, the way of life. It's a great living city. The people are unbelievable. The Blackhawks at the time, we were an up-and-coming team, and we ended up making to the finals in 92. We were the number 1 team in 91. And I just flourished there. It was a great place to start my career. I went to Phoenix.
Yep.
I went to Phoenix where I could play the game at a high level, had a great team, made the playoffs every year, but I could go to practice in flip-flops and shorts and T-shirts. I could play golf after practice. We weren't bothered away from the arena. If we were out for dinner, we weren't recognized too often. We can have a real normal life. And and my kids grew up here in Arizona. So it was a really good place for me at the time. And, it's good on the body. Then I go to Philly, and Philly is my type of town as fans go. They are hard-nosed. They are determined. They are they're very needy. Mm-hmm. They're demanding, and they root passionately, and they want their players to play passionately, and that fit me to a T. And I will say, I think even today, I get more fans in the course of a week that come up to me, whether it's in the airport or whether it's on the street, that are from Philly, that show me the love that, I've only 4 years there. It felt like I was there for 20, the way that I think my relationship with the fans are in Philly. And then, my LA stint was terrible on the ice, but it was great off the ice. It's LA. and then to have the ability to finish in San Jose in another warm climate. And I think one of the most underappreciated, at least underrated fan base in all of the National Hockey League. That Shark Tank was one of the best places to play, and the fans per capita had more jerseys per fan than I think any building I ever played in. And their passion for the Sharks up there, and again, I played on the best team in the National Hockey League and probably should have won a cup there.
Yep.
So what was my favorite city? Really hard to say. I mean, if I had to say if I was going to be buried or in the jersey, I mean, I would have to go with Chicago because it was the team that drafted me. It was the team that drafted me. It was the team that I have the most history with, the longest stint with, where I had, the 50 goals, 100 points. It's where my name was kind of created. So you can't take away that aspect of my career, which I never forget.
That's awesome, man. I was hoping you would say that. I wasn't sure if you would or not, given that you live in Scottsdale now and Southern Cal. But I'll tell you what, man, I've been to Philadelphia. I'm part of a company out there that I'm on the advisory board for, and their sports scene. I don't know if you've been back there lately, but here's the Phillies stadium, here's the Eagles stadium, then the Flyers and the Sixers. It's all in one huge parking lot with a freaking casino in the middle. It's like, what the hell?
Hey, that's what I said. Philly is sports.
Yeah.
Philly is sports. And I remember when I signed in Philly, the media said, are you nervous to come play for Philly because the sports media will eat you up? And I said, no, actually, they should be afraid of me. So I was never afraid of it because all you need to bring in Philly is a passion, a work ethic, a determination, and a desire to win. And you bring it every night and the fans will be great for you. And I think we were just a perfect pair.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to get off the Philly thing, but we had one other Philly guy on here before, and I'll just ask you, Geno's or Pat's?
It's Geno's. It's Geno's.
That's what, there you go.
Always sat in the back table. Always sat in the back table back in the kitchen. Whether it was after games, I'd go there. They always took care of me at Geno. So I knew you were going to ask that question. For some reason, it seems to always come up. But I'm a Geno's guy.
There you go. Geno's 2, Pat's 0 with a guest on our show from Philly at this point. Hey, man, you mentioned Chicago, and in our audience, we probably have a lot of people in you and my, age demographic where we have teenage kids. And, I kind of just sit back and think, and as I looked at your bio, you're 18 years old and you go from being a high schooler to being drafted in the first round in the NHL. Could you just give us a glimpse of what that was like?
Scary. Because I was drafted after my junior year, and I wasn't the biggest guy in the room. I was 100. Oh,
you still had a senior year in high school in front of you.
I still had a senior year. Yeah, I actually stayed back when I was a kid because I missed too much school due to hockey. So I actually repeated a year in school, and
it worked out for you.
It did. It really did. So I got in June of 1988 after my junior year, and decided that going to school wasn't my jam, and take a shot at the pros, even weighing 150 pounds. Now the problem was going to the National Hockey League out of high school when you're playing against boys to going to play against men. And not just men, but men that look like they should be in prison. They look like they should be in San Quentin, like really scary looking NHL players, right? With no teeth, cuts all over their face, giant people that look literally like they were going to eat you alive, and which they would have if they could have. But that was scary for me, and I had to battle, and I had to work for everything that I got, and I had to fight for everything that I got, because nothing was given to you back then. It was a different game back then too, because there was nothing keeping these guys from dropping their gloves and giving you a good pummeling to chase you away. Whereas that is not the case anymore in the game.
Well, you know what, and I'm going to fast forward to out of chronological order on some of the questions I had lined up. I was going to ask you about that. We've had, just to give you a flavor, Jeremy, I'm sure you're not an avid fan of 2000% Raise his history on our guests, but we had Randy Couture from the UFC on, and he talked about the evolution of MMA fighting from the last 25 years. It used to be like freaking barbaric, and now there's rounds at least and all this other crap, and there's actual rules. And we had Roddy White on from the NFL, and we talked about the concussion protocol in the NFL now. Has hockey, as an outsider looking at it, I still see them a lot letting you guys fight and, whatever. I mean, has there been a lot of safety protocols?
Yeah, there has. I think the National Hockey League has done a lot to try to protect the player. And so much more protecting the player from themselves, because hockey players are a different breed, right? And football players are a different breed. If you give them the opportunity to play when there's something seriously wrong with them, like a brain injury or a concussion, I think they're going to take that opportunity to do it and only put themselves in a worse position. That's just how I think how they're built. So, the National Hockey League has done a very good job of at least monitoring the concussion, monitoring the hits to the head, making certain hits illegal. I think having spotters watch to see when someone gets hit and taking them out of games to get them checked to make sure that they are of sound mind and body. That's been a good thing. I think they have really, even though they haven't taken fighting out of the game, I think they have really tried to, to bring players to understand that it's not needed to look down on it. And I think the players today, because you don't see very many fights in the game anymore. I mean, before in the early 90s, we'd have 3 or 4 a game. We'd have one every practice. I don't think the players, I mean, I've gone weeks watching a game and not seeing a fight, weeks. And it's not that it's a bad thing. I mean, it's that the game is as good as it's ever been in terms of talent, speed, agility, what they can do on ice right now. You watch Connor McDavid, he's the most talented person ever to skates, in my opinion, what he can do. But the toughness aspect and the ability to have that accountability of toughness, it's nowhere near what it was like in the early 90s.
So let me ask you this. Here's my theory on this, man. I thought, okay, 25 years ago when there was fights all the time and everything else, and now there's not quite as many as you just set out. Were you guys almost like, 'cause hockey wasn't, and maybe I'm just totally wrong on this because I'm in Chicago and we got spoiled with Patrick Kane and Taves and everything that they've done in those years where everybody became hockey fans. But I think hockey as a sport just gotten a lot popular over the last couple of decades. And, maybe 2 decades ago was the NHL almost encouraging the fights because of, the marketing of it?
No, they weren't encouraging it, but I think, we've definitely used technology to help with the exposure of the game. I think Gary Bettman, whether you like him or not, when he came in the early 90s, when the league was making $750 million to where it is now making over $5 billion.
Wow.
That's marketing. That's putting the league on the map in terms of positioning their players, using them in commercials, using all the different companies around the world to try to get exposure. He really did a good job on that aspect. But the fighting aspect, back in the 90s when we were making 200,000, 250, 300, 350, 400, before salary disclosure came out and all these big salaries started flying around. If you didn't have a job and you lost your job, you had to really wonder how you're going to survive the rest of your life. Whether you're going to go be a fireman, you're going to go be a policeman, a garbage man, or whatever you're going to do. Go work back on the farm for a lot of people. So you battled for your job. You were afraid to miss games. You were afraid to miss games because you were hurt. Because if you missed a game from injury and somebody came in and took your job and did a good job, you're out of a job. And you can't live on $250,000 a year the rest of your life. It's a little different story now for some of these kids that are coming in making millions of dollars at 20 years old, 19 years old, 21 years old. They have security. They have security. What are they worried about? Like, what do they have to actually fight for that is passionate, where it's like life or death, like in terms of your being. That fear of, oh my God, if I don't play in the National Hockey League, what the hell am I gonna do?
Right.
So
and now they're getting in their Mercedes, going to their loft, you're saying, or what?
Yeah, well, it's for sure. I mean, of course, there's no worry anymore. These kids have bank accounts. The size of most states. It's like crazy. It's unbelievable. And granted, they deserve it. I don't think it's bad that they're making big money. Good for them. But it just creates a different mentality in terms of the desire that you need.
And then did the players union and the league kind of grow up together because there's more money in the pool now? The collective bargaining agreements got stronger because network TV was taken over, or what?
Yeah, of course they do. Where there's money, there will be greed. Where there's money, there will be power. Where there's money,
Yep.
You'll have some shyksters. You'll have some people that will support it. That will make sure that it's looked after properly. And the NHLPA is going to want their money. The NHL is going to want their money. The players are going to want to be represented properly. They're making money off of their likeness, so they want to be protected in that. It is a pretty crazy merry-go-round, to tell you the truth. But I think the National Hockey League has done an amazing job over the last 20 years and 30 years in terms of increasing its revenue, but increasing its popularity.
So listen, on that money note, right along with what you're saying there, okay, you being traded from the Blackhawks has been referred to as the worst trade in franchise history, if not the league history. Can you give us some insight on what was going on there? Because it had to be because of money. It had to be, right?
Well, it was. There's no question about it. And, it is the one thing that in my career that if I could go back and change it again, I would have treated it a total different way. At the time, I'd already scored 50 goals twice, 100 points 3 times. It's 1996. I was asking for $4 million. Eric Lindros came into the league in 93, 94. He made $3 million before he even played a game.
Yeah.
The salaries are going at that level. And I didn't think that, $4 million was definitely worth $4 million. And we had the Blackhawks did not think that. They didn't agree with that. They didn't want to. I don't think they liked the trend that the salaries are going, and they tried very hard to keep that trend from happening.
Got it.
And I got into a word battle with an owner, and didn't have the respect to know that it's the owner's team. If he doesn't want to do that, then that's fine. We just got into a war of words, and unfortunately I got the worst end of the stick in terms of the trade. And you're right, it was one of the worst trades that they ever had. And it was one of the worst moments in my hockey career is when it happened.
Yeah.
But
in corporate America, even for me, when I sold my company, I had an employment contract. I had to work somewhere. And towards the end, it was kind of like, hey, don't let the door hit you in the ass. What have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? Like, who the F are you kind of thing. And was it like, just get the hell out of here, Jeremy? Thanks, but no thanks?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I was told that I'll never make $4 million ever, right?
Okay.
But not only did I make $4 million in Phoenix for the next 5 years, but I ended up making $9 million in Philly in 2001. So,
okay.
So that thesis was proven wrong. But I think what bothered me the most is, a year and a half after they traded me, wanting $4 million, they signed Doug Gilmour, who was 5 years older than me, on the downside of his career for $6.5 million.
Really?
So it's kind of, did they realize that they made a mistake and they had to make up for it by signing, Doug Gilmour? I'm like, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you it bothered me, because, what if I played Chicago my whole career? I mean, that would have been unbelievable.
Yeah. Did you get a welcome reception when you'd come back and play from the fans?
It was mixed. I'd say probably 70-30. I think there's a lot of fans that held me responsible for the grudge and for sparking the controversy or whatever, which is fine. I mean, that's sports. I would hate somebody for blaming me for the situation, because the way I look back at it now probably was a lot my fault.
Well, and back then too, it's nothing like now with from a media standpoint. So the positioning of this is whatever the guy in the Chicago Tribune or Chicago Sun-Times decided to position it, right?
Yeah, it was a tough time. There's no question. But again, I got to experience 4 other amazing cities. So I really can't. And I had a great career. And I can't argue with that or be ashamed of that.
Right on, man. Right on. I'd be doing our audience a disservice if I didn't mention that you won a silver medal in the Olympics. Now, should I guess that the gold went to Canada? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's still probably the greatest thing that ever happened in my career, because in 1980 when the U.S. won the Miracle on Ice and beat the Russians, which was the biggest upset in all of sports history. I was there as a 10-year-old watching it, and
Cool.
and I remember Al Michaels making the call, "Do you believe in miracles?" and so on and so forth. Seeing Jim Craig with the flag over his shoulder. I mean, I remember those. That made me want to become a pro hockey player.
Awesome.
It made me want to be an Olympian. And at the time, U.S. was not a big international power. We'd finish seventh, eighth all the time in all these international tournaments. But that one event kickstarted players like me, Chris Chelios, Brian Leach, Tony Amonte, Mike Modano, Brett Hall. I can go on and on. Billy Guerin, Doug Waite, John LeClaire. I mean, I can continue to talk about the group of players that now saw that game and became hockey players, and then made the U.S. a superpower. And it was culminated in '96 in the World Cup of Hockey, and then in 2002 in the biggest stage in all of sports, and that's the Olympic gold medal against Canada, who was our arch rival, who they claim as hockey is their sport, which I believe it is. But that was the epitome of saying, we got America here. We made America a superpower.
That's awesome. And you make a funny point there with the Canada thing, because again, as an outsider here, as I looked into you, they kept referring to you as an American-born NHL player, like that's some kind of like, distinction. So I gotta think that if you're the might, and obviously I could figure out why that is, but I gotta think that, okay, you're in the Olympics, what was the American team even able to be filled up with current NHL players if there's that few?
We had an amazing team. There's no question. We had a powerhouse team, and at the time, like, I think Americans now in the game have been more prevalent, just like there's more Russians, there's more European players. It's still a Canadian dominated league, but I would say 15 to 20% are now born in the States. And it's way more popular now. Like when I got drafted 8th overall, what you talked about in 1988 at high school, that didn't happen in the National Hockey League. I mean, the National Hockey League did not draft high school hockey players coming out of high school for the draft in the first round. I was very, very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I didn't realize that was a huge deal. And then we had talked about that $4 million salary you were seeking. Could you give us an idea of what that first contract looked like for a first rounder?
It was 95,000. I made 95,000 my first 2 years, and I made 100 the third year and 105 the fourth year, and then jumped up to a big $1.7 million after that. So started going a little bit the other way. Yeah.
So Wirtz was like, okay, dude, you were making $95,000 3 years ago. We just give you 1.7. Now you want $4 million. Get your ass to Philly. Get out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or no, it wasn't Philly.
The Phoenix. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's funny.
I want to give a quick shout out to my friends at America's Benefits Center in Atlanta. Check them out at americasbenefitscenter.com. These guys know their stuff. They're great employee benefit brokers. They've been around the block. I've known them for a few years now. They're 100% Hispanic owned, bilingual. So any entrepreneurs out there growing your organization, you're getting at that point where you need benefits, or hey, maybe you got benefits and want to look at a different broker, check these dudes out. They're in Atlanta, but they work nationally. americasbenefitscenter.com.
Well, hey man, before I jump into one of your businesses, I'm holding a Whiskey in the Wild bottle right here, which I'm going to talk about.
I got one right here too, bud. Here we go. See,
love it. Yep. My flask isn't on mine because it's upstairs somewhere. I've already used it a couple times.
It's a beautiful bottle even without the flask. It's really awesome.
It is, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about that. I want to make a statement. I don't know if you're allowed to or able to answer me or not on this, but I just wanted to say something. You had a prominent career as an analyst as well, and I got to tell you, we had a guy on this show before named Ryan Rotman, and he kind of talked a little bit about he's an actor and he's in a movie with Kevin Spacey, and Kevin Spacey cancel culture got him right before their movie was going to air, and it kind of screwed up his career a little bit, or not screwed up, his big break he was going to get as the after effects of it hitting other people. And one of the things we also talked about is how some employers have kind of overreached a little bit during this whole like 2018 to 2020 time. And Jeremy, and again, I'm just making more of a statement because I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask you this stuff or not. But I got to tell you, man, I read the article about why you and NBC broke up from 4 different sources, okay? And it seems like it was just a massive overreach by NBC. And then I looked at the date of it, okay, this was right in the middle of everybody getting canceled, of everybody of the Me Too movement, and it just seemed like they stuck you into that category that incident shouldn't have been in it. Are you able to comment on that at all?
Well, I agree with you, by the way.
Okay.
It was a very innocent, in my opinion, very innocent comment that, millions of people tease and play with and have fun with. And, I told a story and everything behind the whole thing is kind of ridiculous. But I think just what I will say is I had 10 awesome years there on television. I loved going into people's living rooms and being able to tell them what I thought about games, look at the insight, break down games, be able to say great things about players and be able to say negative things about players and be able to teach people the way that I saw the game. I loved that. I loved that connection with the fan, that intimacy with the fan of being able to come on and say, Alex Ovechkin is awesome, or Sidney Crosby's terrible, or so on and so forth, and give reasons why. Talk about some of the things that they didn't want me to talk about, like why the referees are so bad. When the league doesn't want me to talk about referees, we want to treat them, they're untouchable. But I wanted to talk about them. You know why? Because the fan is at home in their living room saying, "Why did that happen? How come they didn't call that? What's going on?" And I wanted to tell them why. And sometimes it didn't happen. So anyway, to finish this long answer as best as I can.
Yeah,
I had 10 great years there that I loved being with the fan and being able to teach the fan my sense of the game. And I think it was at its end. We didn't see eye to eye. I think it was time for me to leave. And unfortunately they let me go, and that's it. But my life is awesome. It's not affecting my life because I move on. And I'm a battler and I'm a fighter. I find something new to do. And I found new ventures, like you said, like the whiskey. I have a couple other things. I'm doing a lot of things for charity. So it was a part of my life that I really loved, but it's a past part of my life. And I don't have anything bad. I don't have anything bad to say.
Gotcha. And I've noticed that you have taken the high road a couple of times now, and I really appreciate that. And hopefully our audience is feeling that positive energy, because we all feel wronged one way or the other. We've been wronged one way or the other, and it's really how we respond to it. So thank you, Jeremy. You got a lot of people looking up to you, and people in my age demographic that looked up to you 30 years ago are hearing you talk right now. So hopefully they're feeling that same energy that I'm feeling right now. I will say, though, as you tell that story, it makes a little bit more sense now. I might be connecting dots that shouldn't be connected, Jeremy, but it happened over a comment about a friend of yours on Barstool's podcast. But, how many times did they warn you to quit bitching about the refs, Jeremy? I mean,
a lot.
Did you finally give them the reason to get rid of you?
A lot. I mean, there's so many times I said, I want to talk about this subject, and they say, no, can't do it. And I'm like, But it's okay. I mean, it's, it is what it is. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm too honest, and I just, I talk the way that people want to be talked to. And nowadays you can't do that because people's feelings get hurt way too easily. And we got to make sure that we got to make sure we don't hurt feelings. That would be bad.
Yep. They had somebody monitoring you. He's going to mess up sooner or later. Okay, what did he say on that Barstool podcast? He made this reference. Get rid of him. Got him. Well, hey, let's talk.
It was just time. It was time to find something new to do. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, congrats on that career too. I mean, that's you're an opinionated dude. You don't hide from it. I mean, shit. Look, your book is called "Shoot First, Pass Later." You know what I mean?
My first book is the most outspoken, hardest hitting man in hockey. So I mean, you got to live up. You got to live up to a certain reputation, and I've created it, and I think a lot of people get the wrong impression of me because the media at times, the media writes things to create controversy. They write things negative so people read their stuff. People don't read about good things. Nobody wants to read about the good things. I think that Curt Schilling said exactly the way that I feel in my career and sometimes in my life now, that the media created a Jeremy Roenick that really doesn't exist.
Really?
Because, they talk about all this ego, they talk about this party, and they talk about all this crazy things that I do. And I'm just out flamboyant. I'm egocentric. I'm cocky. I'm all that stuff. I'm not nice. He's into himself, but you can ask millions of people that have met me on the street, met me in a bar, met me in a restaurant, met me in an airport, met me on the street, and I can guarantee you that you will get a very, very different story from the people that actually engage me and meet me and have a chance to have a conversation with me. Because I'll give time. I'll give 1 minute, 5 minutes. I'll hey, can we call my dad on FaceTime? Yeah, let's do it. Let's call your dad on FaceTime. I mean, it's constant. It's constant. And, the charitable work and all that stuff. It's just too bad that the media is a bunch of bottom dwellers that just want to stir the pot and create controversy instead of, celebrating good things.
Yeah, that sucks, man. I could tell you though, man, for what it's worth, not that you need my comfort, but I think the positive of your reputation far has outweighed anything negative that I've heard about you, at least. Yeah. And
hey, listen, I'm not saying that I'm a saint, because I'm not. Yeah. I'm not saying I've made a lot of mistakes, right? I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've definitely been very outspoken and flamboyant, and at times, yes, very cocky. There's no question about it. But I don't live my life like that, and I think that needs to be set straight.
Yeah. I had years ago, Derek Rose was my neighbor. We lived in the same high rise, and he was going through the shit when he was on the Bulls, and everyone wanted him out of town. He's people calling him a bitch and pussy and all this shit. And he's the nicest guy. I'd share the elevator with him every other day, and it's hard.
It's hard. It's a hard rope to walk, right? Yeah. And you just have to accept the good with the bad when you're a public figure. And I hate the word celebrity because it's a terrible word. But when when you are seen, you're recognized, and there's a lot of scrutiny going on, and people will watch you, and there's going to be opinions, and you have to accept the good with the bad. For me, I'm probably 70-30, 60-40 on the like to hate side. So it helps me in the media, right? So I can talk the way I want to talk, and I'll please most of the people and piss off the other 30.
Yep. And you're active on social media too. Do you ever find yourself, do you ever read a comment and it pisses you off, or you don't pay attention?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I have to hold myself back to get on to start some big, worldwide controversy and say something that would be controversial, or say something that I don't agree with, or that's every day. I mean, everybody reads every day. They read social media and something that gets them mad or gets them angry, or this whatever's happening in the world. And it's a constant battle to keep my fingers from opening up, Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, see, I've stayed away from Twitter altogether. I'm just like, dude, I don't even want to get, because you're just asking for it on Twitter. Instagram, it's like, I'll read a comment. If it pisses me off, I had a friend of mine that's a celebrity in LA. He told me, he goes, listen, if it pisses you off so much, just delete it and pretend like it didn't happen. If it kind of is funny, maybe say something smart ass back, but make sure you're funnier than his comment, or don't say shit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. Hopefully the new regime at Twitter brings back a little respectability and honesty in it. Yeah,
well, that's what they're saying. So listen, man, during COVID, all right, back to Whiskey in the Wild here. I've been sitting on a batch of these, by the way, from our last. We were originally supposed to do this interview, like I said, about 20 weeks ago. And so I've been able to read part of your book. I've been able to drink a couple bottles of this. This is excellent, man. Could you give us the background? It was you and your buddies started this, right?
Yeah. So I was supposed to be involved in another whiskey company, and it didn't come to fruition. And so I'd see all these different spirits coming out, all the celebrities doing these cool things and vodka and tequila and whiskey. And I saw, Eddie Belfour made an awesome whiskey. And, Eddie Belfour is one of my heroes. So, so I figured it was 2020, middle of the pandemic, and wanted to do something. Everybody is locked down. There's nothing happening. Government's not letting us work. You can't go to the store. You can't do all this stuff. So we figured, what are we going to do? I said, so let's try to do a spirit. Let's think of something that would be cool. I went to a couple friends. one of my friends being a big tasting blending guru here in Arizona. He has a few businesses that he's run. And I said, you ever thought about doing a flavored whiskey? And he goes, no, I've never done that. I said, well, what do you think of a chocolate whiskey? I don't see any chocolate whiskey on the shelves. It's not very popular. Whiskey is the hot thing going on, especially with the millennials and Gen Zs and all that stuff these days, especially blended whiskeys. So I said, let's do a chocolate whiskey. And it took us 18 months. My buddy created the juice that's in this bottle, which is without by far probably one of the best drinking experiences you'll ever have. Any type of liqueur. For people that don't drink whiskey, you will be so pleasantly surprised that you do not get a burn. It is the most pleasant drinking experience, like I said, you'll ever have. But we built it for a reason, because I wanted to make more people whiskey drinkers, and most of those people being of the female variety. Most females are not big whiskey drinkers. And a lot of guys like to sit around after golf or sit around doing something by a fire, smoking a cigar, drinking a glass of whiskey. I wanted their significant other to join in with that. So I wanted to make whiskey more of a family-oriented thing, right? More of a partnership. And so we created Whiskey in the Wild. And I will tell you, I have converted pretty much 100% of every female that's ever tried my whiskey, whether they're whiskey drinkers or not.
Yep.
And the bottle is an amazing bottle. It's one of the best packaging you've ever seen. It makes for one of the best gifts you can have, whether it's for Father's Day, whether it's for Christmas, Thanksgiving. If you're a groom, for your groomsmen, it makes a great gift. And the flask, you take it, we call it the traveling spirit. The bottle will capture your eye. The juice will capture your heart, and it'll make you come back.
So I love it.
We've already won a couple bottle awards for the packaging.
Cool.
I really believe that this is once it catches hold and catches fire. I mean, we've had one of the best launches ever in our distributors record of blends. So we're very, very, very fortunate where we're going and where we've been and where we're going.
Well, that's the thing, man. The flask built into the bottle is freaking cool. Like, again, me being in Chicago, we have this Al Capone vodka that's kind of like shaped like a Tommy gun, but you drink the vodka out of it, it tastes like shit. So I start to drink yours, and I'm like, all right, this is a gimmick. Oh, Jeremy Roenick has this freaking flask. Then you taste it, and you're absolutely right. It's excellent. I prefer it as an after dinner drink. I know that's not how you're marketing it, but okay.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's it's by the fire. It's before you go to bed, after dinner. It's a casual cocktail. Have it over a block of ice, have it neat. You can like it anyway, have it coffee, put it over some ice cream. It really is there's a lot of things that you can do with it. But, I wanted people to celebrate their day, right? I want people to celebrate whatever they're doing, whether celebrate a hike, celebrate a great ski day, celebrate a tough day at work that they got through. There's no better way to finish your day, whether it was hard or successful, than with a glass of Whiskey in the Wild right before you go to sleep. I'm telling you, it'll make you sleep like a baby and put a smile on your face.
Love it. How much was, for the entrepreneurs out there that are working with manufacturers, I gotta think not only did you jump through a bunch of extra hoops to get this bottle designed, Jeremy, there has to be a higher cost associated with it too.
Well, this is a high end bottle of whiskey. There's no question about it. We use a Canadian triple distilled whiskey, which is very popular. We blend it in Wisconsin, and it took us about a little over a year and a half to find a company that would make this bottle. We had the idea in mind. We designed the bottle, and we went through 4 or 5, 6 different bottling companies to get them to somebody to agree to try to make it. We found one in Mexico City, and they had the first tries of making the bottle were unsuccessful. The third try, they finally got the consistency right. They got every nook and cranny, corner perfect, and hence the bottle was built after almost 15 months. Whereas the actual the ingredients of the chocolate whiskey took 18 months to perfect. So there's a lot of love. There's a lot of love in this. There's a $24 flask that's attached to it. Everything about this is high end. So it's an $89 bottle of whiskey that is sent to your house, shipped to your house. We are only direct to consumer right now, and we're doing that for a reason. Number one, we want to prove that we have a product that people will buy, that people will like, and then that they will rebuy. And we have been so successful in all three of those. So, but again, this is not your grandpa's old whiskey. This is a very special blend that is not for everybody price wise, but will be for everybody taste wise.
Yeah. But you know what? The bourbon drinkers, man, that do the higher end stuff, the price is not out of whack with the bourbon drinkers. I know this is American whiskey, right? But
the whiskey drinkers are snobs.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. They are, I got my whiskey and my whiskey's got to burn and my whiskey's got to taste this and my whiskey's got to be expensive. And, you can't put chocolate in a whiskey. You can't put, caramel in a whiskey. You can't, right? Yeah. Whenever you hear blends to the old fashioned whiskey connoisseur, you're always going to get sneers. Yeah. But in this day and age, this generation that is now, 21 through 35 through 40, they're blend people. They prefer the blends. And one of the reasons why we decided to go with a blend, because it's pretty desirable. It really is.
Are you still randomly, do lucky buyers still find your autograph on a flask here and there, or just stop doing that?
I actually just signed 1,000 of them, or 100 of them today, actually, at the office. So there'll probably be a few more ranging out there. But what I have done is people that want a flask signed, they just email us at whiskeyinthewild.com and at our website and ask for it signed. They send it in, I'll sign it and send it back. So whether you get one in the mail is always ways of. I've actually met two people that have bought bottles that reached out to us on our website. Okay, and I actually met them when I came to their city at a restaurant where we had a glass and I signed their bottle and we had a nice conversation about everything. So, awesome. I'm willing to do a little bit more than most people will to acquire and keep our customers.
That's awesome, man. I'm involved in this alcohol company. Do you remember Darren Rovell from ESPN?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So he's a buddy of mine, went to Northwestern together, and he made a comment. He has an alcohol company called Kickstand Cocktails, and he said, you know what, our product is good, but that's not what's going to make this thing worth X one day. It's going to be the navigating of the system. And
it is.
Jeremy, you're doing grassroots shit. We got entrepreneurs out there that are listening right now, probably some with alcohol companies. Yeah. Oh my God, if they had Jeremy Roenick celebrity status on their team to go out there and meet with people like this.
It helps. Yeah. But listen, not everybody has Randy Gerbers and George Clooney's to sell their stuff.
Exactly.
So but you do have to do grassroots. It is a very difficult business. It is a lot of hoofing it, knocking on doors, talking to a lot of people, and it's a very difficult business, but it's worth it when you see people's faces after they take their first sip.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on that, and I hope it does what you're thinking it's going to do. And I'm not bullshitting. I have 4 bottles in my house, and this is the one. This is
boy. I expect that to be empty by week's end.
It will. I was giving it out to everybody during Christmas when I had people over. Everybody was enjoying it after that meal. I'll tell you right now.
That's great.
Hey, last question then, before I get into our final question. We have another mutual friend that I haven't told you about out in Orange County that I saw you guys are connected on Instagram, and asked him about you. And I said, tell me about Jeremy. And he said, you know what, man? He is an astute entrepreneur. And this is someone in the venture capital, private equity type of space. I'll tell you off air who it was. But he goes, he's an astute entrepreneur and investor. Jeremy, we have a growth-oriented audience. Any advice you want to just give to our listeners on some of the moves you've made over the decades that have helped you out financially?
Yeah, so I was always told by my dad, get involved with everything. And if 1 or 2 of them hit, the losers don't matter. The ones that lose don't matter. So I was always one that stuck my hand in everything, right? Whether it was investment of my own money to get into, or whether it was my sweat equity that I pushed because I believed in the product. I bought a golf course because of my passion of the golf course, and still knowing that the golf course still had the land equity of it, the real estate portion of it, which we know is very important. Real estate is very, very important to have in your portfolio because God's not making any more of it, and the more you can get in your grasp, the better you're going to be. So it was very important that I did do things that I knew was going to make me money in the future, being properties, the golf course. I am a part owner of a golf green company called Celebrity Greens, where we build the best backyard synthetic greens in the world, and we are just blowing up. Actually, I'm here at our convention here for all of our franchisees. We have 120 franchisees across North America, and
you're a scratch golfer,
greens.
right? You're a scratch golfer.
Yeah.
Is that why you got involved in the company?
Unfortunately, I am, because it's not good for winning money on the golf course, but I have to give too many strokes away.
Everybody knows.
I'm involved with an esports company with a good friend of mine, David Chen from NACL. Esports in the world today is one of the fastest up and coming, things in the world. There's millions, hundreds of millions of kids are playing online games and online sports, and it's turning into a huge money industry. So I'm part owner of that. So listen, it's just one of those things. You have to stay active. You got to keep your brain going. You got to hustle in order to make. I don't care how much money you make or how much money you don't. It's the journey and what you learn going through that. And hey, you're going to lose money along the way, but sometimes you're going to get a big hit, and it's going to feel great, and you move on to the next. But I'm always a believer that once your brain stops, your life stops. So you got to keep rolling.
Yeah, those who enjoy the journey more than the destination make it a little further or something like that. There's a cliche out there like that, and I love how you just put it there, man.
You got to remember, you meet a lot of great people too in different industries. I mean, the more things you get involved in, the more great people you meet, and it's not that I need more friends, but I do end up meeting a lot of great people that I'm very fortunate to have crossed paths with, for sure.
To compliment that, when I started telling people I'm a venture capitalist a couple of years ago, the friends come running to you. Anybody that needs more friends, just go tell them you're a venture capitalist.
By the way, you'd be amazed how many more friends you get when you start a whiskey company. Hey, mind giving me some of that whiskey? You send me some of that whiskey. Hey, how come I don't have that whiskey yet? Yeah, could you spare a bottle? No.
Yeah. $89.
Here's the website.
Yeah.
Website. There you go.
So you heard it here first, everybody. The investment advice from Jeremy: run home and buy yourself a golf course.
Listen, you don't make money. You don't make money by giving things away. Right?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So not everybody's going to be in a position to buy a golf course, but Jeremy's grander point with that was that there is a limited amount of real estate. It's finite, and
it is finite for sure.
And he's believed in that, so that's great. And Jeremy, I really appreciate everything. We have a final question that we ask everybody. Doesn't have to be hockey related. Doesn't even have to be business related. It could be whatever you want. Jeremy Roenick recommends what movie to the 2000% Raise audience?
Wow. Anytime, past, present, history, whatever.
Anytime you want, man. And don't worry, nobody has an answer right away. Sometimes
that's a tough one. Well, I was always a big fan of Shawshank Redemption. That was just one of my favorite movies of all time. Forrest Gump is always one of the best movies that you could possibly watch. Remember the Titans was, you talk about sports movies.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Denzel Washington, just fantastic in that movie. And if anybody hasn't seen Slapshot, you are missing,
waiting for that.
You are missing one of the greatest epic hockey movies of all time. And to finish off, anybody who doesn't watch Caddyshack is, again, you just miss an old time, real funny, funny movies. Fletch, anything with Chevy Chase, was great.
See, are those still standing the test of time, man? Because I remember like Airplane too, put in that category.
Yeah,
or even Animal House. Yeah,
don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't hear as much about Slapshot over recent years. We got to get it back on the map, man.
No question. Well, I at one time I was part owner of a t-shirt company, and we did movie quotes on t-shirts, very classic movie notes. And then we had illustrations on the shirts. Like we had a pillow with feathers like flying out of it, and it said, "Those are pillows. So what's the movie? Trains, planes, and automobiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I don't even put that movie in that category.
It's all ball bearings these days from Fletch. It's a lot of fun being able to quote a lot of classic movie lines, and it makes for a good conversation. So it's fun.
And that wraps up another episode of 2000% Raise. Thank you for listening. The best way to support our show is by leaving a rating or review on all platforms you listened on. And of course, by following, liking, or subscribing. Visit us at 2000percentraise.com or at John Cerasani on TikTok and Instagram. And of course, my YouTube channel at John Cerasani's 2000% Raise. Find all the ways to follow today's guests in our show notes. Thank you for being a part of our entrepreneurial journey.